Okay, so I got this 94 Dodge truck in here. Got to replace the timing gear cover gasket. It's leaking oil bad, but I'm not really sure that it's directly coming from the cover gasket. Had it in here before, steam cleaned or power washed it off, and I think it's coming actually out from behind the injector pump, but I've gonna have to pull it apart and take a real good look at it. Gonna pull the front end off the radiator out and try and find out exactly where the oil's coming from. It's a lot of oil. Again, I steam or power washed it, and even after he's only driven it a little bit, you can see that bottom half of this engine is, or the drivetrain, front drivetrain is really covered in oil, and he only had it, and it was over Christmas. He only had it probably for 4 or 5 days before he brought it in after I'd power washed it, and it's covered in oil again. Kind of hard to figure out exactly where it's coming from, but I'll get it pulled apart, and I'll bring you back on it so we can see what it is. Just a little work on the starting to strip the truck apart. Bring it back a little later. Okay, so we're back on the Dodge, and I've got the radiator out, the shroud off, the fan off, the harmonic balancer off. And this is kind of what we got. I'm not really sure. Again, I mean, there is a bunch of oil down there, but yeah, maybe it is a gasket, or that there's a seal in there, so maybe it's that. But looking at this one bolt here, I wanted to kind of get a picture of it before I took it apart and try and figure out what's going on with this. But anyways, I'll bring you back. Just taking a little shot here for reference. I pulled, this is kind of bizarre, but this thing, I mentioned it before, why this spacer is on there, I'm not really sure. But when I pulled these two cover bolts out, this one and this one, both of them were really oil soaked. So, I mean, the rest of them were pretty dry, but those two were oil soaked, so may have some significance, may not. One of the things that I think is wrong with it is I think it was leaking from that seal end that goes around the end of the crankshaft, and as you can see, somehow there's a groove that's been worn into that thing. When I put the new seal in the cover, I'm trying to reposition it so it doesn't sit over that groove. It actually is gonna sit in a little farther back in here, so that it should help it. But I think that's one of the causes of the oil leak. But as I was telling the owner, that the oil looked as if it had been spraying out from someplace. So I'm going to put this cover plate back together and put the radiator back in, run the engine, and see if I can find something else that might be leaking now that we've got it kind of cleaned up and stopped from this part. Maybe we can identify something else that's leaking, but I'll bring you back. Here's what I got. I don't know whether you're going to be able to hear me, but I put the timing gear cover back on, sanded down the end of the crankshaft where the seal from the cover goes over it. I took some emery cloth and a long strip of emery cloth and kind of spun it around, trying to get some of those that groove and pitting out of the end of the crank for that seal. So what I did is put the new gasket in, new seal in, put the cover back on, put the harmonic balancer back on, and got it started up just to see if I can see anywhere it's leaking. So that's kind of where I am at this point. I'll bring you back when I start putting it all back together, or if I find anything else. Okay, here's where I'm going to end part one of this video. I'm probably going to try and incorporate this Cummins engine issue into a series on my channel. I've never done that before. I've only posted a couple of videos so far, but I'm going to try and incorporate it into a series because this is going to be an ongoing project. Where I had left the video off is that I had the engine running without the radiator or anything hooked up, just to kind of double check the timing gear cover seal to make sure it wasn't leaking from the seal or the gasket that I replaced on it. And it wasn't. There's gonna be a continuation of this series, and with other issues, and then the video is gonna take a change, and the project is gonna take a change from a repair to a build. So just kind of hang in there, and you'll understand as it progresses what happened and why it happened. So this is it for part 1.